In a world overrun with the fake, delusional, and disingenuous, he stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? I apologize for my absence. I was down with the flu and still trying to work at the same time, and kind of took everything I had trying to do that. But excuse me, while I was down, I did find quite a bit of information I wanted to kind of cover with you guys. Quite a few topics. So this is one of them, and it's an article that was written back in October, and it is dealing with the idea of masculinity and is it worth saving? Some things that we talk about in the manosphere quite a bit. So I don't know, that seems kind of crazy to even ask that, but this was written by a woman, Laura Kipnis, writes that masculinity is an emblem of mobility, with Phil Christman, while Phil Christman argues that notions of manliness are better left to the side. So, I mean, that's interesting that the young lady appears to be pro-masculinity, and the gentleman is arguing against masculinity and notions of manliness, saying that they should be left to the side. I think this is an indication of a sector of men out here who basically try to dumb themselves down for women in order to appear to be less of a threat, and are just pro everything woman, no matter what the outcome will be of being pro woman to that extent. So we're gonna cover a little bit of that over the course of, I think, a couple of articles here, and I'm going to try to show the importance of masculinity and why it's just not very intelligent to even argue the point that it's not necessary. But, that's been spread around that because of this new modern age, that somehow gender roles are obsolete and we don't necessarily need men. But the effects of this thought process are damaging our society, and men are just, and boys are just feeling like they have no purpose in this society anymore, and that's one of the reasons why we're starting to see an increase in suicide rates, men not participating in higher education, the workforce, and a number of things that men used to enjoy and used to contribute to for the betterment of society. So we need that to continue. But without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and get to it. Let me get everything set up for you. All right. Okay. All right, let's cue it up here.
Is the idea of masculinity worth saving? Yes.
The masculine person is not someone going around wearing shoes they cannot walk in for more than a block. The classic masculine pursuits, hunting, fixing a car, throwing a ball, cannot really be performed in heels. The philosopher William James said the masculine virtues have historically derived from going to war or going to work. The Harvard professor Harvey Mansfield says it's all about confidence in risky situations. Wrong and wrong. The quintessential masculine virtue is simply an unwillingness to put on immobilizing footwear. When you see a masculine person in a physically restricting accessory, straitjacket, leg irons, you can be fairly confident it's not voluntary. 1. From these observable social facts, we derive the insight that a masculine consciousness favors liberty over bondage. Now, the pathways toward human emancipation have never been straightforward. No one would argue that the history of masculinity has not been one of conquest, rape, plunder, and so on. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture. I'm just pointing out that self-restriction has not typically been masculinity's default setting. It is, by contrast, femininity's calling card, and self-hubbling shoes aren't the half of it. Bodily liberty isn't nothing, especially when the fractional quotient of it previously possessed by women and other childbearing humans is currently being razored away, state by state. 2. Which is among the reasons that, if masculinity and femininity are construed as polarities and I had to pick one, masculinity is the preferable option. Ditching the whole conception of binary gender is always an option, but in the current schema, getting the fuck out of Dodge, hitting the open road, or seizing whatever remnants of rebellion you can from the maw of the oppressor and storming the palace, also impossible in heels.
Okay, so we see that this, anytime this is starting off from a bad position with me, because you have a woman describing what she views masculinity as opposed to what masculinity actually is. And, she's referring to, women's shoes and whatnot. And she's trying to define all of masculinity in history as being, plundering and, basically imposing oneself over women. And that's the way a lot of feminists see it, with this conquest and plunder and so on. And she goes on to say, I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture, but all of mankind wasn't, engaging in that type of activity. And this goes back to what we talk about. We talk about, who was actually oppressing these people. And, you can't say that, you're protecting yourself from all of the men when all of the men were not involved in oppressing women, i.e. black men did not have any part in oppressing women in this country. We were a part of the oppressed up until the point to where, we started to get the right to vote and whatnot. And I've already gone over, Title VII and, instituting race into that, and that, further, subjugated us instead of elevating us through legislation. So, we're seeing a lot of fantasy about what masculinity is, which is crazy, and, she has this notion of rebellion. To be masculine is to rebel. I mean, you see this a lot in a lot of women where they try to act like, they emulate the worst possible example of a man, and they think that they're going to gain some sort of respect from that, or they're going to gain some form of happiness in life by emulating that image of what they deem as toxic masculinity. While they're trying to get rid of it in men, they take on that image and that affect, like an overcoat. They put it on and they think that they're going to be protected against the world, and now I'm going to be the oppressor. As in you see countries who were oppressed, and then when they become stable, they become the oppressor. And that's where we see right now. I mean, the very idea of asking the question of whether masculinity has any place in society is ludicrous, but let's move on.
Masculinity's domain. 3. Needless to say, masculinity is not only the province of biological men. It's distributed among the sexes, though perhaps not equally. Plenty of women wear comfortable shoes, even to the office, despite the fact that power dressing apparently still demands heels. This very credulity about power dressing is the essence of feminine consciousness, in which immobility is empowering and cultivating hotness is a long-term self-marketing strategy. Masculinity may have its downsides, but femininity is civilization's longest-running scam. When they tie the legs of horses together to stop them from straying, at least they don't call it power dressing. 4. Now, you may argue that 4-inch heels represent the femininity of capitalist patriarchy, and you'd be right. But there's still a choice, one that the masculine personists choose. I understand that it isn't beneficial for people identifying as women when femininity is associated with negative traits like self-repression and masculinity with positive ones like freedom. But indictments of masculinity have become...
Okay, I gotta stop it there. Okay. Masculinity is viewed with positive traits, yet femininity is associated with negative traits, like self-repression. I mean, do you see this, how this programming has basically taken root into these people to where they can't even enjoy their being, just being? They're questioning everything about, them coming up as a girl or as a woman and looking at it as a negative. Imagine growing up as a boy and saying, everything about me is a negative, which is kind of what's going on right now, but these women, this is crazy. I mean, this is a spotlight on the mental state of some of these people who are putting this type of notion out here. It is not beneficial to society at all. And we got to do something about this, in the academy, higher education, to where we've got to root this out. There has to be some objectivity and some neutrality in descriptive terms, as in sexuality, male, female, all of that needs to be locked down the way that it used to be. Now everything is blurry, and you got all of this identify as and all of that, and it's as if they're just taking this ambiguous position, this cloudy type amorphous definition of what femininity is and maleness is, and it's just not. It's crazy. This is going in all kinds of different directions. She sounds like she hates herself. Women hate themselves because they're subjugated. She's using these references as horses with their legs tied together. I've been on this earth for a long time, and I've never seen the things that she's talking about women being subjugated to the point to where they feel like they can't do anything. Looks like they're doing a lot, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, where, the books are being written, data's coming out that men and boys are doing terribly in the society, and the descriptions and, what is being taught about being a man and a boy is all negative, to the point to where men are not functioning properly in this society that we have built for the betterment of all of mankind and women, mankind meaning women too. All of that was all encompassing, but now we have to spill it out. I mean, this is crazy. Everything is just, I think we've gotten to the point to where we're so smart that we're dumb. The more comfortable we get, the more idiotic it seems that we become. Nothing is locked down. The science gets fuzzy. People start getting all into these, these fringe type thought processes and religious orders and whatnot. And we're seeing that feminism is becoming a cult, a negative cult that is basically imposing itself on men and boys and trying to make us victims. And you hear this in this description of this woman writing this article, and it's gender and sexuality section in the Nation, and it's just this is difficult. But let's get on with it.
Become so mandatory that you can't go 5 minutes without hearing some pian peasant going on about mansplaining and manspreading. How about a hat tip for masculinity's salutary daily reminder that at least some forms of surplus repression can be refused? 5. A memory. Years ago I was at some academic event and ended up at a bar with a woman I didn't know. She was writing a book about bisexuality, I recall. It was winter, and she was wearing white Levi's and black boots, which I found daring, having apparently internalized some useless feminine prohibition about which months the wearing of white is permissible. We fell into mutual griping about the bottomless correctitude the feminism of our circles seemed devoted to. So many rules, so many rebukes. Free-range imagination was increasingly regarded as a masculinist operation. What might be called the feminization of culture had hardly reached its current apogee. Who knew then how mainstream and corporate liberal the culture patrols would become? At least queer theory was still some small refuge from political propriety, though it too would be overtaken by sensitivity police. 6. Somehow it emerged that we both guiltily loved the Leonard Skinner song What's Your Name? Obviously, no feminist should like this song, about a guy in a band spending the night with a woman whose name he doesn't remember. On his way out of town the next morning, it sure was grand. He offers to get her a taxi, gallantly promising to see her again when the band comes back the following year. 7. There's something about the rollicking good old boy exuberance of this dumb song I never get tired of. The same for my conversation mate. I'm pretty sure neither of us identified with the little girl in the song. No, we wanted to be on the road, getting in brawls and having sex with groupies whose names we didn't know, in lieu of the cosseted little world we called home. At least we wanted a hall pass for that corner of our psyches. And the pleasurable perversity of loving a song by a bunch of southern longhairs with horrible politics singing odes to discarded women. 8. We wanted mobility, imaginative or otherwise. And unreconstructed masculinity is still its emblem. 9.
Okay, there you have it. I mean, it can't get any plainer than that. I mean, like I said, and I've said this before, how many times have you heard little girls go, why can't I go and do what little Johnny's doing? And people tell you, because you're a girl, you can't do what little Johnny's doing. Little Johnny's a boy, and you hear this. So when they grow up, there's still little girls who want to do what little Johnny's doing. So here you hear this say that at the same time she hates this song about a man, sleeping with a woman that he doesn't know, and it's so anti-woman, and a feminist wouldn't care for any of this. But then she goes on further to say that they want to do what the men are doing in this song because it will be liberating for them to go from town to town fighting and having sex with groupies, okay? And it's funny that in this sense, they're describing groupies as people who are knowingly having sex with these entertainers and whatnot. But then in everyday interactions that we're having here lately, these groupies don't know any better, as in, all these women who are now coming out and making allegations against people who they basically go backstage to meet, interact with these men. We all know what groupies do. Women know what groupies do and how they think and what their objective is, to become intimate with these men. But in the old days, they didn't become intimate with these men and then try to blackmail them for money or try to destroy their reputation. But now that's a part of the feminine or the feminist ammunition at their disposal. That's the first weapon that they're going to use, is to basically destroy this man for wanting to interact with women who basically want to interact with them. And she lays it plain. We want to do what men do. It's bad when men do it, but we want to do it. And when we're doing it, it's not bad. You know, there's a psychosis there about what they think being a man is and what being a man actually is. It's like penis envy. I want to know what it's like to stand up and pee. You know, those things. It's envy of an idea of what manhood is and what it is to live as a man in this society. And I mean, it's fascinating that it rears its head. All you have to do is just read or listen, and you hear the same tones, the same undertones. Envy and a notion to replace men in this society with women who act like men. But let's move on. Let's hear what the man has to say, since Laura is finished.
Laura Kipnis 10. No. Writing and thinking about masculinity has made me skeptical that the concept has any stable definition. Defenses of masculinity typically focus on various good qualities that are assumed to be men's special business. Courage, strength, an interest in math, a willingness to do dangerous jobs, a love of tinkering. These traits are ubiquitous in women. If we call these attributes masculine, this implies that there is something either freakish or meritorious about a woman exemplifying them. But when I see that my wife has been brave, I don't think, what a masculine gal I've married. Similarly, when my brother-in-law, 6'2", swole, shows how nurturing he can be to his sons, I don't think, wow, he's feminine too. I simply find, in both cases, that masculinity and femininity are vast and indeterminate. Neither covers territory the other cannot claim. 11. This is true as well of bad traits that are sometimes assigned to masculinity: violence, aggression, dominance. Men do have a high collective body count. Valerie Solanas, who shot Andy Warhol and whose Scum Manifesto advocated for the elimination of men, proposed a scheme by which women could catch up several billion people in one fell swoop, but they have yet to take her up on it. We don't, comparatively speaking, have many women mass shooters, serial killers, or rapists, but we do have, increasingly, women cops, prosecutors, polluters, captains of industry, CEOs of weapons companies, and imperialists. Women's ability to wear these hats perfectly well suggests that dominance and violence would not disappear from the world along with men. 12. There is another perverse concept.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there for just a second. Can you imagine? You know, he's talking about, you know, these traits that are not necessarily masculine or feminine. I mean, can you imagine going out in the wild and trying to stop buffaloes from butting heads and, you know, mountain goats from ramming and showing, strength and dominance in order to mate, as they've always done for centuries. You know, that essentially is what we're doing now. We're basically trying to take the horns off of men. You know, don't be, masculine. Don't show any violence. Don't do the things that men do to basically show themselves to be a good mate, you know, in a natural sense. Now, some of those things we can't do, but some of those things we still do. We still, become, we puff up when we're around women. We become more aggressive. We wrestle, we do things to gain that woman's attention, but all those things are being looked upon in a negative light, even by other men. And, this is crazy. I mean, sociologists and psychologists are supposed to observe, not change things that are not broken in society. Now, some things might change as we evolve and as we grow, but some of the things that are there's an engine in place that is changing things about us as humans that is going to be detrimental in the future. I mean, this is an experiment in the process. I mean, it's ongoing right now. We're starting to see the social engineering that's taking place with the internet, with higher education, with all of this gender amalgamation going on. And, we still don't know what the outcome is going to be. But we're watching things change and being rearranged down to the molecular level of society right now, right before our eyes. And some of it we can see is going to be bad, but we're still not doing anything about it. And you hear it in this article and other articles that we see every day. People are asking questions that are just self-explanatory. I mean, trying to find problems where no problem exists. But let's move on.
Consequence: when we label traits that belong to everyone as masculine, good things fall into disrepute. I have seen people disparage, say, weightlifting, the use of logic, bravery in the face of physical danger, and other fine things as masculine in the attempt to be good allies. How I have come to loathe that bland geopolitical metaphor. Logic in particular gets it coming and going. Sometimes it is accused of being a Western or a white trait, too. What a massive and unearned compliment to white men. Our hegemony rests on everything but logic. 13. What about chivalry? This is the part of masculinity that seems, at first blush, like it might be of use to society, since it encourages men to behave self-sacrificingly. Certainly, if either my wife or I need to run into a burning building, I am going to attempt to do it before she can. But notice how quickly even this impulse, if it is based in love, must check itself. If my wife decides she wants to be a professional firefighter, and if I use my power to stop her, at some point I am no longer acting in love toward her. We want to protect those we love, but part of what we love is their autonomy and their capacity for goodness. As for less dramatic acts of chivalry, holding doors, opening jars, they are best understood as instances of the principle that you should use your skills, privileges, and other attributes to serve those whose gifts lie elsewhere. Karl Marx's old principle from each according to their ability applies to everyone. And yes, that means that if you're a person with a middle-class income who loves a working-class man, he shouldn't always pay for dinner.
Okay, that's a great point. But a lot of the things that were that were described in this paragraph came about during the Victorian era, where men were, the chivalry and basically, putting women up on a pedestal and, the things that we see. You look at, movies like Dracula and whatnot that are done in the Victorian era. You see, how the women are dressed and how men tipping their hats to the women. And, just everything was just so refined during that time. And you had gentlemen's clubs, you had manuals teaching men how to court women and how to carry themselves as a gentleman and all of those things. And you also had schools that were basically teaching these women the traits to be wives and to be elegant and how to be feminine and to dress appropriately, to how to to eat appropriately in certain settings and all of that. So some of that stuff is still expected of men to this day, but men aren't getting the same woman that they used to get back in Victorian times. So the courting is gone. It's pretty much in shambles now. It's our mating rituals are just how can you even describe them? They're smoldering rubble. So let's move on.
14. Masculine finally seems useful only when we talk about identity and desire. The writer Andrea Long Chu, contemplating bottom surgery in her superb essay The Pink, tells cis women, "I don't want what you have, I want the way in which you don't have it." Chu seems to say that being a woman is a relationship of desire. That there's a picture in a person's head that they're trying to live up to. This is a man's relationship to masculinity as well. I desire to be many different, mutually incompatible men. Superman, Noam Chomsky, and Al Green, with a little W.H. Auden thrown in. I can't be all of them. I know this, but sometimes I try anyway, and I get mad at myself when I fail. 15.
Okay, you hear this? This fantasy, expression of what they think, a man is, as well as, this, I don't know why we always have to pull in some type of gender identity, person who is confused about or wants to change into something else. But it seems like every aspect of society is pulling that in. This is supposed to be about men and women, masculinity and femininity. All of this other stuff that's drug in is just it's the agenda. But they bring in this book about a person that's going to get this gender reassignment surgery, and they say they don't want what the woman has. But I want the way in which I want it, want the way in which you don't have, which that shit makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, yes, you do want what the woman has. If you're getting your body rearranged and you're rooting yourself out in order for you to have a vagina, then obviously you want what that woman has. You think that's going to complete you. You think that you are in a body that is not right. So in your mind, you're trying to rearrange your physical being in order to fit, what the image that you have in your head. Now, that goes into a whole nother thing where we start having to deal with people who have done this and who regret it. But these people are doing this, and we're allowing these people to do it, and we're boosting them up and being as supportive about all of this as we can, and disregarding any indication that these people may be mentally ill, or it may just be a phase that they're going through, and their mental affect may change. Their whole idea about how they're feeling at that point may change. Just like in puberty, we feel a certain way. Once we get out of puberty, we feel a different way. People change their minds, but you can't change your mind once you've done things like that. They're permanent, and that's why these people are one of the highest groups of suicide rates in this country, because they still don't feel complete after they've had this surgery. But somehow this has worked its way into a description of masculinity, which I have no idea why that's there, but make of it what you will.
Several times in my life I have stepped between men bigger or wirier than I am to prevent a fight, and what I saw in their eyes, every time, was fear, then gratitude. I had given them the pretext they needed to retreat from the masculine selves they strained to project. If you're in that situation and don't see fear, you're looking at a sociopath. Duck. The last time I was in a physical confrontation, I was at an event where formerly imprisoned people were reading their work, and I had to march a drunk right-wing heckler off-site. My main feeling could be summarized as, how long can I keep this going? Eventually he retreated a safe distance and insulted my mother. 16. What are we left with? Masculinity is some tricks of the light, some hazy desires about who you want to be. But it's not stable enough to tell you who you ought to be. Better to leave it to the side and worry about being moral. 17. Phil Christman. 18.
Well, what do you guys think about that piece of, I'm trying to be objective. I don't want to, I don't want to trash the article, but, what do you guys think about that? To hell with it. I didn't care for it very much, but that's where we are now in descriptions of masculinity and femininity. And then you have this individual saying that, he stepped in between, men trying to break him up, and he saw fear. I've broken up quite a few fights, and I never saw fear in anybody's eyes. I saw, anger, rage, and determination to engage the other individual to the point of a finality. There had to be some resolution to the indignation which took place. So I don't know, but I don't know. This guy seems to see things in a way different kind of world. I haven't really researched this guy and this girl, but I'm sure that if I do, I'm going to see some things that are questionable. But you guys, this is the mess that we are in. You guys, let me know in the comments what you thought about this and how you feel about how these people are discussing what masculinity is, if it's worth saving, these types of questions. I mean, is this a productive thing that should be going on right now? We got bigger problems in the world than trying to change men into powder puffs. But it appears that that's what it is, Men should be soft. Men should be able to share their feelings. Men should not fight. Men shouldn't do anything. It sounds like to me that a lot of men should be girls, and you should allow girls to be boys. That's what it seems like. Even in the media and everything else, you see, it was okay to see, one or two, female heroes and whatnot doing some superhero stuff. But now it's all over the place. All of the male heroes are being redesigned in a softer way. You're either funny. There are no serious action films going on because that's considered to be toxic. I've been reading Thor comic books for forever, and I've never seen Thor depicted in the way that, that was this last movie depicted him. I mean, this was ridiculous. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I guess I could go on and on about this, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. I will be combing the comments to see what you guys thought about that, and I will definitely engage with you on there. You guys have a great day, night, or evening whenever you are listening, and I appreciate you guys so much. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button. Appreciate you guys.
I feel like a